Last class, this is probably as far as you got, we talked about carving away the negative space behind your image. Remember some safety tips, make sure that the blades are screwed on tightly. Sometimes they can come loose. Remember that we are putting our finger over the top of our tool. We're not using it like a pencil, and we're never carving towards ourself or towards our hand. So if you just leave the image like this and print it, you're just going to get the outline of your design, and we want to make sure that we captured those details. So even though you've removed the negative space, now we need to remove the lines that are on the inside of our design. So here's another example, carving around these shapes. But then if I want to get the details of the petals, I also have to carve on all of the lines inside and on the center. And same with this. If I just were to carve this now, I would just have this outline that would look like a blob. And I want to make sure to have the details. So that means I need to carve on the lines. So with your carving tool, first step today is to go on any of these lines that you want to be part of your design. Remember, anything I carve away will appear white in my design. So I want to have the distinctions between each of these petals. So I'm going to carefully carve on any of the lines inside. So that would be all of these black lines, also these lines here. Okay. Also, if I want, if mine extends into the outline, the border, and I want those lines to show up, there's going to have to be a line here and a line here. Okay, so I'm going to carve all of those lines before I'm ready to test print. Before I'm ready to test print, I'm going to clean up all of my little shavings, put away all of my tools, and here are the supplies you will need. I'm ready to see if it looks good. So what I'm going to need is my block. I'm going to need a placemat. You'll have a pile of these placemats. It's just a piece of paper. Okay, so I'm going to have my block on my placemat, and it always lives there forever. The block stays on the placemat until I'm ready to print. For a test print, we're not going to use the good paper, which is up front on the floor. We're going to use our sketchbook paper because this is just a test to see if it works. So I'm going to rip out a page. I need a test print paper. Now I'm ready to roll out the ink. Okay, I'm down on the center of the table. Notice that the ink trays and brayers have their own placemat. This is not your placemat. This is the ink trays placemat. Your block is on a placemat. For a test print, don't roll a million colors, just choose one color. This is just a test. Remember, you're gonna put a little bit of ink. We don't need as much ink as we did last year for printmaking because the blocks are much smaller. So I have that ink in the ink tray. My goal is to roll the ink till it coats the brayer. If you're the first color, you always need a little bit more, but the goal is to not waste. Ink is expensive. All right, so I roll it onto my brayer. Remember, I'm looking for that sticky sound. Now I'm gonna take my brayer and roll it onto my block. Okay, so the reason we left the border is so that the ink doesn't fall inside the sides of the border. I can roll either direction. I feel like I have too much ink, but that's okay. So I inked my block. This brayer does not go here, does not go here. It goes back here in the ink tray for the next kid. Now I'm going to take my placemat and my block down to the registration center. Now I'm down at the registration center. Notice there are no nice papers here. There are no little shavings from blocks that will mess up your print. So now that I have my block inked, I'm gonna put it on the part that says place block here. So it's gonna get laid there exactly. I'm gonna check my fingers. We have a sponge here to wipe our fingers. Okay, now normally if this paper was one that I'm printing for all my other prints, I want to line up the page exactly where it says page outline and the paper will fit. But for my test print, I'm just going to lay my paper over the top. I can use my fingers first to rub. Now we do have these brayers here that are acting as a botter-in, which is what real printmaking artists use to press the ink onto the paper. But I actually have one at each table. This is really made from bamboo. This is what the real printmaking artists use. And I can use that to rub, be gentle. That's just to transfer the ink to the page. Okay, and now I'm gonna pull up my print. Nice, pretty good. So what happens is you might notice that there are places that you missed. So meaning that there's a couple little sections here, whoops, be careful, that I need to still remove with the carving tool. Okay, so I need to now go rinse this, dry it, dry the block. Always, friends, always dry the block. Then I need to grab my carving tools again and go carve out. Not right here. If I carve right here, what's gonna happen? Yes, you're gonna get little pieces here and that's gonna mess up someone's print. I'm gonna go to the other end of the table where there's no printmaking things, and I'm going to carve away any of these little sections that maybe showed up where I don't want them, okay? So then I have to test it again. Go through the whole process, make sure I've removed what I wanted to remove, and then I'm ready to start pulling some prints. Papers for printing are along the wall in the front of the classroom. Make sure your hands are very clean before you touch a clean paper. I can use multiple colors on my block when I'm ready to start making real prints. Make sure you're thinking about the color of ink and the color of your block so they're not too close together. When I pull a print, I want to make sure it's registered, which means lined up in the center. Every single print must have my name. You can put your name on the front or the back, but make sure that your name is on every single print. This print is now going to go into the place where wet paintings go, which is the drying rack. Once that print is in the drying rack, I can get a new piece of paper, rinse and dry my block, and keep going.